I have a couple of problems. First of all, the last couple of 2 weeks, wow, I've had a cold, and I was planning on doing loads of videos and doing all this commentary over all this recorded footage that I had, so I didn't have this big delay anymore between recording something and actually releasing it, because right now it is still over a week that I've recorded this, way over a week actually at this point, and instead of actually, you know, reaching that point where I make a video and then I commentate over it and then I release it, it's actually gone worse, because this is recorded way over a week ago, and that is a bit of an issue, because in this video I'll be tackling a couple of things that I've actually tackled a long time ago, such as the office zones, which will all be placed in industrial complexes, of course, because that was a problem that I was running into and didn't really realize that I had to replace all my office zones with industrial zones. And then there's also the fact that by the time that I am saying this, the entire area in the middle of the city is changed in a way, but I'm not going to give that away yet, because you'll all see that in the future, and hopefully the soon future, because even though my cold is not entirely over, I feel like I'm good enough to commentate again, even though this is definitely not the best idea. I went to sleep way past 3 AM last night, and I still have that cold, and this is definitely the ideal situation to stream, but I would like to say that it's also a positive thing, because I've been playing more Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 again, and been working on a lot of things, and even the Let's Play Park, well, I wasn't even recording that, but I probably shouldn't be talking about that. I should probably be talking about what I'm doing in this video right now. Well, this neighborhood right here is the Bucharest area, which that big square in the middle is going to be the park. It's kind of got a communistic idea, you know, that having a big park in the middle of your neighborhood and then placing all this housing around that, very much planned and structured, but I still do like the area for that, and it turned out pretty nice in the end, but you'll see that in a bit. And you'll also see that this video is actually pretty short, and I wasn't originally planning on that, but it just turned out this way, because the episode after this is going to be the big show-off episode, in which I'm actually going to look at the city and look at what I've got, and it's a good thing, I suppose, that before that episode is there, I'm still going to change many of the problems that I still have in the city. And here it goes. That's part of the big industrial complex over there being completely demolished to make room for office zones and a bit of not industrial, no, not at all, the commercial and residential zones. Though I must say that neighborhood is kind of turning into something that I would not like to live in. It is pretty functional, and it's not causing the massive traffic problems that the industrial complex has caught. So, yeah, I think it's a good change in the end. And this is just problems that I had in the downtown with traffic, and I don't know if I'm actually having traffic problems or not, because on one hand, there are still quite some red roads, but I'm not really seeing any traffic jams, so I'm not really sure whether I can claim that my traffic is very smooth and good, or whether I actually do have congestion. It's hard to say where the line is between congestion and just heavy traffic use, but I guess there's a lot of heavy traffic use, but not really too bad, although you can see, and that's the reason that I decided to make this other highway ramp over here, that a couple of highway ramps have been, are being used way too often, and this eventually led to the fact that, due to these two highway ramps being added, it almost looks as if there are too many highway ramps for, you know, such a small city, and every half a kilometer, even less than that, you'll have another highway ramp, and it almost seems like I have too many of these things, but this is how many I need to prevent the congestion, and not really sure if this is unrealistic. It probably is, but I guess that's just how the traffic works and how I have to deal with it, and that's a good thing and a bad thing, because, you know, it's a challenge to work your way around traffic problems, but sometimes you'll do extremely unrealistic things to well, fix the problems. Just like I did just now. I wanted to build that ramp, but there were houses over there, and you can, without a problem, just remove any house that's in the way, or completely flatten entire neighborhoods to build your highways on. And, you know, it's nice when you're playing the game, because you don't have those pesky people complaining about your plans that are obviously just about the economic growth of the city, but then again, it's not really realistic in that sense. I'd expect to have at least Greenpeace complaining about the fact that I am removing nature and city to build my enormous highways everywhere and just straight out demolishing people's houses without their permission just to build a highway ramp. Seems to be a bit of an evil thing to do, but I can do that in this game, and it was for the greater good, I'd say, in this case. And as you can see, this neighborhood is growing into a shitty neighborhood. It looks terrible, honestly. It's definitely not something that I would want to live in. On the contrary, this neighborhood, which is later going to be known as Bucharest, is pretty nice. It's that kind of planned neighborhood, and I'm kind of divided about those things, because on one hand, I do like the organic growth, but then again, cities are planned. At least over here they are planned, so it feels like the best way to deal with this is to have a certain kind of planning that is functional and looks somewhat planned, but also very organic. I don't want to have a completely straight road system, and I don't want the city to be a perfect working metropolis, kind of like the perfectly planned metropolises that many people built in SimCity that were well functioning and perfect in many senses, but just looking like a dystopian kind of city that I would not want to live in. And that's something I want to avoid. So I want to find that balance between a good city and a good looking city, which in my case would be a organic but also kind of planned city. Now, one thing that I am somewhat uncertain about is my very round road pattern, because this road pattern has many more curves than any real city in the world would have. I mean, even the city center has all those suburban roads, which seems to make sense, of course, because in the beginning it was actually a suburb-ish kind of place, but right now it's actually grown and has flats and big offices, and it doesn't really seem to fit the curvy roads anymore. So that's something I will look into in the future, and possibly remove some curves and make the roads more straight, because, you know, as cool as the curves are and as curvy as many roads are in Europe, this is probably taking it too far, and even in the case of organic growth, this probably wouldn't happen. So I'm going to look into that. And here we see the district making of Bucharest. Is it even called Bucharest anymore? I don't know. And there's also that fine little church, which I was quite fond of in the beginning, because that was one of the only churches in the workshop at the time, but right now the workshop is flooded with so many buildings, and definitely a lot very different from when I just got this thing. And so much has changed, and so much custom content is being added, that I am afraid that at some point that nobody will be able to take all the custom content, and especially the game won't be able to take it, but I guess we'll see. I am actually looking forward to seeing all that stuff develop, and it's really awesome to see so many custom things already in the beginning days of this game. But yeah, I must say, by the way, that those roofs of the offices are also big and white. Doesn't really look too great, and now I suddenly get all these big areas with white buildings and everything. I'm not too sure about how I'm actually going to do that, or if I want to restructure all those areas. But yeah, that's it for this episode, and I'll see you on the next episode, which is going to be completely different, because we're going to do a nice tour of the city and look at what I've got so far. So